Audrey, Devin, Tamika, Hunter. All right. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do anyway. All right, I need to get.
My access to.
How'd you guys all do with access one?
Mine came back weird.
It came back
Yeah, I
weird.
don't know if there's a, I was following the steps, but I don't know. How to talk to you guys.
Okay. Okay. Did you get a report at the end?
Um.
I had a lot of my online students that said, it won't let me submit. It won't let me submit. I'm like, "That's
Yeah, it wouldn't let
because-"
me, it would not let me submit, and then I submitted another one, and then it gave me 11 out of 50, and I was like, what, and it will not let me submit the one I literally just did.
You have to use the start file. If you just opened a blank document, if you just opened a blank database and started working on it, it won't let you submit that. You have to use the start file that's given to you from the Cengage MindTap site. I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna have the computer. I'm gonna go.
How did you guys do with your technology for success projects? Did you work on any of those yet?
I started and finished, but
Okay, you will probably want to do some of that a little bit at a time. So you don't have to wait and do it all at one time and then be upset because you have to spend a lot of time doing it frantically at the last minute. So,
Yeah, I finished all of those, but my access, I got 0 out of 50. First part, I don't know what happened.
okay.
And I
But it let
actually,
you submit it.
and
Um,
so I was able to submit it, but I just realized this morning that I didn't have any points for it.
Okay, you're not the only one that has happened to. So what am I getting into? Training? I don't want training. Sometimes if the tables are not named correctly, that can cause you to not get a score. Let me look here and see. Oh, you know what? It may be. It looks like your first one was submitted at 6:01. And that could very well be what the issue is.
At 6:01.
Yeah, and I have it set to be turned in at 6. And that is probably, I lost you here, but let me find you again. Wait, what is today?
Today's the 29th.
Oh. Okay, well, the first one you submitted the other day.
I submitted it on Sunday, but I didn't, yeah, I didn't realize that I, didn't
Yeah,
have points.
so the one that you submitted today was submitted after 6, and that's why you didn't get a score for that one. Okay, so what happened with another student is all that I'm seeing here is the grading info table, the SAM textbook project info, and the grading report. So what it looks like you did is you submitted a blank. It looks like you submitted what file was downloaded with a new name. My guess is you have one saved somewhere on your computer that has all of the work that you've done.
Yeah.
So,
I tried to resubmit it, but the name was not right.
okay,
What
so,
was the name? The file.
okay. So you have to, that's why I've told you guys all along, you have to know where you're saving to. Let me get my share screen going here.
Okay, I got it.
Okay. So most of the time when we download a full file, it goes into our downloads folder, right? And so we can always go there and find it. If you do a save as and you save it to your CSIS 115 folder or your schoolwork folder or wherever you end up saving it to, probably when you go back into the Cengage website to submit, by default, it's going to go back to that downloads folder. And so that's where your file is that you originally downloaded. Let me. I'm going to do this in Excel because I don't know that I have an access file that I can submit. So. Well, I may not have an Excel file I can submit. Okay. All right, let me just save this access folder file here. So I'm gonna do a save as, and you in the database, you do save database as, and then save as, but I need to know where I'm saving this to. So
There was else with mine though, where you had that, what is it, the ACCDB? Mine didn't say that. Is that okay?
yours says what?
It didn't have the ACCDB on it. Is that okay?
You won't always see that. That depends on the settings of the computer that you're using. And so those extensions may not always be visible in your when you're looking for your documents.
Okay.
So I still have my my thing actually pulled up on here, just in case if something were to happen, actual assignment.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But I don't know exactly.
Did you download the start file?
I download everything. I downloaded everything.
Okay,
Maybe I didn't put it in the right one. Let me see.
okay. All right, so what I'm gonna show you here is if I save this now,
It won't let me go back in. I guess because of the time.
oh yeah, probably it won't. Okay, so now I'm doing what I don't want you to do, but just for purposes of showing you what to look for. So your expected file name is the same file name that you're downloading. So you don't have to worry about changing it or putting that one, or I'm sorry, changing the 1 to a 2 like you do for the homework part. But when you get ready to submit, you can click or navigate to where you need to be. I put mine in documents. All right, you guys can't see that. Hold on just a second. Okay. So I saved this to this PC in the documents folder. And this is my file that I want to submit. But if you see right below there, it's named the same thing, but it has a little red lock there, padlock, and it also says an LACC. This is the locked, like, backup version. And that's why I tell you, you have to close out of this document before you can submit it. Because when you have this opened, that can cause problems when you submit it as well. So I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to go over here to my Access, and I'm going to close my file. Now, if I come in here and click to look at my documents or my files, you'll see that that locked database file is gone. Okay. What you need to look for, Tamika, and everybody else, is if you don't have the name and the date modified showing in your, what is this called? The folder thing. Is that called the viewer? I don't know. I'm not calling it the right thing, but where you're searching for your folders or your files, that thingy. This folder down here on your taskbar is, what's it called? Does it tell me what it's called? Anyway.
File Explorer.
File Explorer. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Okay. So if you don't see where it says date modified, you should be able to use this little icon over here to change it. If you're in list view, you'll just see the names of your file. You need to see the details so you can see what the date and timestamp was of the file that you're wanting to submit. Okay, and this really only is, I mean, it's helpful to know that all throughout the semester. Sorry, I didn't tell you that earlier, but it's really helpful when you're doing Access because you have the same file name that you're submitting. So that makes it a little more challenging to find the correct file. So what you would do is you're like, okay, I just completed my project. It's 6:20 now. So I would, when I go in to look, I'm going, okay, so this one was saved at 6:18. That was just a couple minutes ago. That's the one I want to submit. Because my bet is, Tamika, if you had done this, the file you were choosing to submit was downloaded earlier in the day or a couple of days before or something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and it didn't have the correct date and time on it. So look for that when you're getting ready to submit your files.
Okay,
And that will be a significant help to you when you're submitting these. So I noticed you didn't do the second one either. And I probably wouldn't have either if I was in your position, because I'm like, I got
Yeah.
a 0 on it. What am I doing? But you also have to have that start file, because if you don't have the start file, then you will not get a graded report. Well, it won't let you submit it. So you have to have that start file.
Okay,
So, all right, I'm not gonna upload that. I'm just gonna cancel out of here, maybe. Yeah. All right, so we'll work with module 2 tonight. Actually, any other questions or issues with module 1? And I'll those of you that had some issues with submissions and stuff, I'll go back in and open up those ending due dates and give you some time to get that back submitted back in there. Okay. Oh, hey,
thank
you guys want to watch Frozen? That's what's on my computer.
Gotta learn.
I watched 4 Kids yesterday during the day. That was, I did have the thought at one point in time to have more than 2 children. And then my daughter played baseball with a family who had 4 daughters. And they were always having to farm one of them out to somebody else to get him to all these games. And I'm just like, you know what? I think I'm good. I think I'm done. I think 2's enough.
Yeah, 4 daughters. That's crazy.
Yes. That is not what I want. I want this. Okay, so
I had to reconnect to my hotspot. So I guess right here.
okay, let me. Okay. Let me see here. So it's telling me the owner's table should contain a field name, owner, street. Owner, city, owner, state, owner. So you have owner, street address. So that's why it's counting that off, which is the second thing that it's grading there. And then, yeah, were you here last week or you were, you were online?
Computer.
Yeah, okay. So the, okay, so I had an online student that had this problem. So for that second one, it says to define the remaining fields. So he had owner, street, and then he added the word address in part of his field name. So it counted him off for that. So it did this other girl something like that too. And then, so let's say that you also didn't change the field size for your state to 2, it was still at 255. So the next time you submit this, it's gonna come back and say, something's wrong with that one because, and it will say, check the field size of the state field. Okay, so whenever you get something that's counted off like that, you want to look at everything, look at all of your field names. Did you type them all in correctly? Because don't just assume that this one thing is going to be what fixes it. Okay, because it will come back and then say, the owner's city, you have that wrong because maybe you put owner's city or owner city instead of the singular or plural or whatever. So double check all those things. But I also will tell you, like down where it's checking, so your owner's table should contain the records that are shown in figure 1-17 in the module. That's where you actually typed in the owners. So if you have their first name wrong, their last name wrong, anything in their street address wrong, I think even if you have an extra space or you've added a period or you left a period out or something like that, everything that you type in those tables has to be exactly right for it to be graded 100% correctly. And that's why I said, I look at it, if you have the 2 owners in there, if you have the 4 animals in there, and they look somewhat like you attempted to put in what is the correct information, I adjust your scoring for that. So that would be the case with these first 2 things that I've looked at for you. Keep making that too small. Yeah, well, you got 2 right. You got 22 out of 100. And so, and then the next one, it says the column width of the patient ID field should be resized to best fit. That's probably the other thing. You're probably going to have the patient ID and whatever, all those other fields, they should all be auto sized by double clicking at the boundary between each one. So, all right, and then it looks like you didn't get the appointments table imported. You have the owner's table. Oh, I know what you did. You did your import. You didn't import the right database from the right database. You imported from the current database because you imported an owner's table and a patient's table, and you should have imported the appointments table. Yeah, and everything else is based on that owner's table. And since you have the owner's street field named owner's street address, that's why it counted off on all of those. So technically, you're probably okay. It's just that one, I mean, technically, you probably did the assignment correct. Because Sam grades the way that it does, because you added the word address in there. And then, so the only thing I would probably count you off for is because you don't have that appointments table imported.
Where would that, so I still have it up right here.
So,
Right there. Where would I put that at?
well, you have to have that downloaded. The appointments table, let me look and see here. You have to. Let me look and see. I can tell you. Importing additional access table. So it's AC 1-5Q. So you have to go to the external data tab. And then you will, this is your import section. So this says import here. You would import a new data source. And then you get the option, you would choose from database access. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. And then when you get this window, do you remember seeing that?
I do.
Okay, you need to browse and you're looking for your support file that you downloaded. It's support AC CMF vets. That's what you need to import. And then once you click OK, you will then have the tables, queries, forms, and reports show up for that. And that's where you'll take all of these tables. So you'll select all of them and then you will import. So you do select all and then I'm missing a step there. Oh, and then click OK. And that will import all of those tables for you. Okay.
Okay.
So that will help with that appointment. And actually, this is another case where if you import the appointments table, but you don't import the other two and you submit, the next time your report's going to say you did not import the treatment cost table. Okay. So that's one of those things, like I said, you need to make sure when you do get something counted off in access that you check everything that kind of relates to what you did in that step to make sure that you get that. So that's it. We can go back and fix that. If you fix that address issue, that's probably going to fix a lot of the stuff in here. And then we can just import this other tables like we're doing and we'll see how that goes. So it's not as bad as you think, but it looks really bad when you get 11 out of, yeah. I understand. I wouldn't want to get 11 out of 100 either.
That's very.
So. All right, let me get back to my textbook here. All right, so in module 2, all we are going to be doing is different types of querying of our database. If you have your textbook open, you'll see at the beginning of it, they give you some examples. All of those figures at the beginning are examples of what we are going to, the results that we will be getting from, let me close out of this. So all of these figures that you see here at the very beginning, these are pictures of what our queries are going to look like, the results that we should get. So this is kind of a place where you can go back and go, okay, yeah, that mine looks like that, or I only have one, I'm supposed to have 4 results when I do this query, and then you'll be like, okay, I did something wrong. So that's what all of those are showing you. It'll make more sense as we go through and do each of these queries and how we get there from that. All right, I'm going to minimize this. And okay, I need to move this. Wait, I need to open up my file that I downloaded. And then I should also have downloaded. Let me see here. I wonder if I downloaded the same file because I don't see a different name. So let me look here and see. Because we do have a support file that we're supposed to download too. Oh, here it is. Here's my support file. All right, it's there somewhere. So you want to make sure you have your CMF vets file and your support file. Now I've got to get this where we can see it over here. Okay. Okay. And my students are hollering at me, so that's good. All right. The very first page there talks about a parameter query. I'm going to talk more about that when we actually get to the parameter query. I know query is kind of a weird word, but you'll kind of get used to it as you go through this project. Right.
Quick question. I don't know if I missed something, but mine says block content. Macros in this document have been disabled to keep you safe.
Okay. Do you when you opened this up, did you have the yellow bar at the top?
Not the yellow bar. It just says block because usually it says like enable editing or something like
Right.
that. This one just says blocked. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna see if I can show you. I don't know if you can see it.
And you're in your Access database. Oh, hold on. Let me make this bigger.
You know what I did do? All right, sorry, my window's open. I just opened the file when I downloaded it. Should I have went to the start menu and did the access this time as well?
No, you shouldn't have to. I just download them and then I open them from the taskbar down at the bottom when I download them.
So yeah, that's
but you do have to make sure that you Oh, see, I've already said enable editing on mine, so that's not coming up.
See, mine didn't give that option this time. It just says blocked and learn more. Let me see if I exit off of it. So I'm able to just exit, but it just says some of the content is blocked. So I don't know if that's gonna.
Okay. You might try downloading it again,
Okay.
because I would hate to have you get to the end of it and then not be able to fix something that is caused from this.
I'll delete them and then download them again. Yeah. Okay, let's see. And then the support file.
What browser are you using?
Yep, it says it again. Edge.
You're using Edge?
Oh, yeah, I have one.
I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I haven't used Edge really a whole lot at all.
Yeah, it just says blocked content. Yeah, it doesn't.
Is
It
there
doesn't.
any way that you can like edit it to, or click on it somewhere to say, hmm, yeah. Well, and you're not getting the yellow thing to say enable editing or enable whatever.
Nope, it says nope, it says blocked content. Macros in this document have been disabled to help keep you safe. Learn more. So I'm gonna click on learn more. Block suspicious macros and Office on
What does it say in the learn more?
block suspicious macros in Office on Windows 10s.
Is there any options there to like the 3 dots or anything there to maybe make a change to that?
Let me see. It has sample properties. Let's see. How it works. Sure this file is safe and want to enable macros. Okay. To enable. Okay. So it shows me how to enable macros.
Okay. If you do that, you'll probably be okay.
Okay. So I have to save it to you have to have saved the file you want to unblock to a local hard drive or OneDrive. And then okay. Okay. Let me go in here.
Brandon tells me he's gonna go get a drink and he goes and gets some food to eat, some more food, but he did get a drink too. That's all right.
I walk past, I'm like,
Might as well, might as well.
Okay. So I'm gonna try to unblock it and then I'll let you know what happens.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. All right. So the first thing that they're going to have us do here is add a table. Let me say that again. Add a record to our database. So we're gonna open our owners table. And you can just double click it and it will open up into the data sheet version that you want.
So everybody will.
This is what we're doing for module 2.
Okay.
They have us add one. Or actually, I don't know how many they have us add. Okay, so we're gonna go to the row below O2. And we'll do the O-3. And this is Liz O'Brien. I-E-N. And her. Well, this does say street address, so I don't know what maybe there was something wrong with the spelling that you had. 13 G-R-I, how come I can't see that? G-R-I-F-F-I-T-H-S Drive. Why can't they just make it Smith Drive? I mean, why do we have to be able to spell these uncommon names? Okay. 89665. Oops. 9665. 719. 555. 6968. 719 555. 6798. Oops. L. O'Brien.
It doesn't need to be capitalized.
I'm sorry, what?
It doesn't need to be capitalized.
The email?
Yeah, doesn't have to.
Mm-mm. L. O'Brien at gmail.com.
Bless you. Thank you. Does the field handler still work as far as the emails go?
The what?
Will the field handler still work as far as the emails go?
Not in Access. I know. Okay, so we have, I can't see that screen. So I'm gonna open up my textbook over here.
I think I missed the number. Oh, dang.
Okay. So then we have O-4. Samira. Samira. Patel. 76. Jenkins Way. Westover, Utah. Oh goodness, what did I do?
What's the number on O three? My stuff got deleted.
Which number?
Both of them, actually.
Oh, the phone numbers?
Yeah.
Oh, well, let me move this over for you. There we go. So this is 85546. 435 9865 435 8001. S. L. Email.com.
Probably the wrong spot.
What?
I'm trying to put the phone number in the. Oh, it's all, yeah. That's why that just happened to me like 2 or 3 times. I was thinking one of the same thing.
Okay, and then we have O-5. Brian Kraus. This is Old Farms Road.
You put that
Whoops,
in
I did it wrong. This is Devon in Colorado. I do that. That makes me mad when I do that. I usually do that with the city and state too. Okay. Gonna make these a little bit smaller maybe so we can see. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think of that earlier, but I didn't. All right. Devon, Colorado. What else? Eight eight 447 719 555 1478 719 555 6932. RKRAUS. Tiffany is Tiffanie, and then it's DI capital F Franco. Whoops, look, I got Devon in here still. See, that's gonna mess me up. Five. On the wrong row. Four, three, five, 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 five. 0021. 435 555 002. Oh my gosh,
9134 was the first one.
thank you. 1135. Good grief. Iris Kramer. 784. Hilltop Circle.
You might be missing the L in here, John.
I think I am. See, I need you to make sure I get 100% on my projects.
Yeah, be careful, might get 11.
6547. Well, I should get the first 6 digits of every phone number correct, because if you can get the correct area code. All right, 8 is our last one. If I can find it, find him or her. Ian Kaufman, Kaufman.
Number 719-555-4234. 719-555-8874.
Right. Kaufman. I just like when they renamed Royal Stadium Kauffman Stadium, because I never remember how to spell Kaufman. Because it's, yeah, it's, and then some people spell it with 2 N's and yeah, so. I had a project last week. I was supposed to type this guy's name and embroidered on something. His name is Glenn Tripp, GLENNTRIPP. I left off the N on his name, Glenn. I was like, and it was for his wife's project. She's putting together a quilt or something with all these guys' names on it. It happened to be the wife that was doing it, and I embroidered her husband's name wrong. I just redid it. It worked out. But
Should I say this?
as you enter the data, so like if I were gonna do O-9, you see that little pencil icon?
Mhm.
that lets you know that this data is currently being written and is not necessarily saved. But once I get all this rest of this information in, and I move on to the next record, that pencil icon goes away. So that record has now been saved. So if you do save right now, the only thing that you'll be saving, and for me, this would be true, is if you've made adjustments to the column widths, which I did because I wanted to be able to see the data and I didn't need to see the field names at the top.
I just say the file itself, I just say right click on the home and not hit save.
Yeah, you can do that. It's not gonna hurt anything. So, all right, well, chances are very great, because we did all of this data entry, that you will not get this step counted correct in SAM. Just saying, okay? I probably have errors in here that Jonathan didn't catch before he started proofreading me, so. Proofreading my-
I see how hard it was to keep going back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, it's easier when you got two screens in the way. But
Yeah.
when you click on the one, you got to go back and click on the other. So,
yeah. Okay. Now we're gonna open the patients table. You can close the owners table. And if I go here and I close it, it's gonna ask me if I want to save the changes to the layout, and that's because I've changed the widths of all of those. So I'm just gonna say no to that, because that way it'll extend those widths back so we can see the column, the field names at the top. So then we can open up our patients table. And then we have, I'm gonna have to go back here again because I can't see that other screen well enough. So we get to enter our patients now. Why are we? We should have, what do we have? We have, oh, we don't have Pepper, but we do. Okay, so I have C1, C2, and F1.
add a row above that.
No, the patient numbers for the existing patients so that they are, can't read all of that. Let me get that. Consistent with figure 2-2B. Okay, so pause is going to be P10. So we'll just change the patient to P-10. And then Ranger is P-11. Whoops. And then Fluffy is P-12. Good grief. Okay, so in our textbook, what we're looking at, we're gonna add Pepper, which is gonna be P1. And then we'll be able to go down to P2 and do P2 through P9. Let me pull that over here. So we'll add Pepper. We can skip these three because that's what we just fixed. And then we'll do Hooper down through Skippy.
Okay, so Pepper.
Okay,
So we'll
so
throw Pepper right under, Fluffy.
yeah, we can put Pepper right under Fluffy and then it will reorder them. Once we close and open it back up, it'll reorder based on that first column. Okay. Again, Weimaraner. Of course, I would just call them dog. They're all dogs to me because I don't know dogs very well.
How you spell that?
W-E, oh, sorry, let me open this up bigger here. W-E-I M-A-R-A-N-E-R. Waymare, I don't know.
Hmm.
They're kind of odd looking dogs, but. Okay. And then we're ready for Hooper. What a name, Hooper. I never heard of an animal named Hooper, but that's okay.
What's going on with that? Up there to 6.
What? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's 06. I'll fix that. Oliver is a feline. I'm sorry, I gotta do capital O-6. Otherwise, it's not gonna match up. I didn't know that was a breed, but okay. Some of these people own way too many animals. All right, when we have all those in there, then we're going to do the same thing with the veterinarian's table. So we can close out of this. Then we'll open our veterinarian's table. And so we have William Black already. We need to add Calvin and Mia.
Oh, I just saying something. Those, the veterinary ID goes to zero.
Yes, yes.
What I do?
Okay, so the veterinary ID here at the beginning, it's, yeah.
Oh, okay, I got you.
So it's B02. Calvin Bennett. Four, 3, 5. Why did it say cengage.com? I bet I get that counted wrong. We'll see what happens, because that's what it tells us to put in there. It tells you to put in Cengage. All right, so now that we have all of that data entered, we are ready to create our first query. So you can go ahead and close your veterinarians table. And it may ask if you want to save the layout. Again, the data has already been saved. I'm not going to save my layout because it may want the columns, whatever the width was before I messed with them. So I'll just leave it there where it is. All right. So we're going to create our first query in Design View. And last week we did a query using the query wizard. We'll do a lot of these in Design View. We'll use the previous query to save a copy of it with new information in it. I hesitate to tell people they can do that because what ends up happening is they save the old saved query with the new query information because they just click save instead of save as. So, but it's faster than having to start over from scratch each time. So I usually have students that get counted off for some of the queries that we are supposed to do a save as because they forget and just do save. So if that happens, you'll just have to redo the query that you saved over and resave it. Okay, so we're going to go to our Create tab and we're going to click on Query Design. When we click on Query Design, you will see what's called the design grid show up at the bottom of your screen, and then you will have the show table. I know you can't see mine right now. You'll have this show table box show up in the middle of it. So this allows us to choose what table we want to use to create our query. So we are going to be using the which table here? Can't see what that's pointing to. Appointments table. So we'll click appointments and we want to add that table. And then you'll want to click the close button to take that show table box off of there. Now I'm going to move this up so we can see the design grid. Your textbook, if you read in your textbook, they have you change the size of this appointments field list up here so that you can see all of the fields. It's easier for me to scroll through that and let you see the full design grid down here at the bottom. So that's what I do. The design grid has the 6 rows there that are labeled. The first row is going to identify what field it is that we're going to be searching on and pulling information from. The second row tells us what table we'll be using. Obviously, all of these are going to be using the appointments table. So once we add a field, it will automatically put the table in there as appointments. The next row is your sort row. If you would like your results to show up in alphabetical order or reverse alphabetical order based on a specific field, you can set that sort to ascending or descending there. The next row is called the show row. It has the little squares in it that are check mark squares. If you click the check mark or click the box, a check mark will show up. Actually, when you add a field, the check mark will show up automatically. If you need to use the field in pulling the information, but you don't need the field to show up in the results of your query. You can remove the check mark by clicking in the box. That would be an example of, let's say you want to, we have 2 states here. We want to search for information that's dealing with all of our people from Colorado. So we could use the field state and specify that we only want Colorado in our results, but we can take the check mark out because we don't need to see Colorado listed 8 times. We know that our query is only going to be showing us that people from Colorado. So that's a case where you would take that check mark out, and we'll do one of those. The next row is called your criteria row. This is when we get ready to pull the specific fields. We can also put criteria in so that instead of getting everybody from Colorado, we get people from Colorado, but maybe also, oh, well, that's where you would put it. You'd put your CO in that criteria row. The or row, you would put like people from Colorado, or maybe their breed, or I'm sorry, their, what's it called? The canine or feline, whatever that is called. Animal type, whatever. You know, maybe we only want felines. So we would have all of our felines, but we would have everybody from Colorado, whether they have a feline or a canine. Okay, so that's what the or row is for. The rows below that we do not use. You may use those in advanced stuff. You may use those if you become an access database person and find those useful for something. I really don't know what the extra rows are for, other than it's probably or this, or this, or this, or this. But that's only a guess on my part because I've never used them before. Now that we have our table added, we are going to add fields to our design grid. There's different ways to add fields. So we want to add the appointment date field. So we'll find the appointment date in our field list. And if you double click on the appointment date, it will put the appointment date as the first field. And you'll see that the table name comes along with that. The next field that we want is got it? Okay, so appointment time. Another way you can put fields in is to take appointment time and you'll drag it down. So you'll see how it has that no circle. You can't do that. But if you get it down into that first row there where the field is, then you can let go of your mouse and it'll add that field to the design grid. A third way is you can click in the next available column. You'll see the drop down arrows show up and we want treatment number. So those are the 3 ways that I know of: double clicking, click and drag, or use the drop down from here. And they will also want the owner field. So you should have 4 fields in this query. They're all coming from the appointments table. So now when we run this query, instead of getting the appointment, or instead of let's see, what are we missing here? We're missing appointment ID, patient ID, and veterinarian. We'll only get these 4 fields from this. Okay, so what you'll do is you'll come up here to your ribbon and you're in the Query Tools Design tab, and you'll see the run exclamation point. When you run this, you'll see that here are the appointment dates, the appointment times, what treatment they're getting, and who the owner is. Now, this seems like random information that why would you need to have this information put together? Okay. Probably what I would do for something like this is I would sort the appointment date accordingly in what's coming up more currently to what will be later on. Because you may need to find, you may find that you have treatment 4 coming up 6 times, and you may look and go, oh, I only have 5 of treatment 4. So you would have to do some way, either maybe you can get treatment 4 in that amount of time, or you may have to call another vet and say, hey, do you have this treatment that I can give? Or you would have to call your owner back and say, hey, we're gonna have to reschedule. We don't have a treatment for whatever it's called. I don't know. Yeah. What do you do to animals? All I know you do is give them worm pills or whatever. I don't even know if you have to do that anymore. So I'm not a pet owner, obviously. I grew up on a farm. We raised pigs. We gave him shots every once in a while. That's about all I know. So, but anyway, this is how you will do a query. These are what the results will look like. So we ran this, and most of the time they have you do a save, but I'm not seeing where we have saved this yet. So we're going to make some changes to this, probably because this is just random data and it doesn't make any sense to have it. So we're going to go, when we did the run button, it changed us to our data sheet view of this query. We are going to use our view button and change back to the design view so we see our design grid. And then we are going to use what's called text data. You what? Do you still have your 4 fields? Oh, okay. You probably look here at my screen. See this button right here, this scroll box? You probably clicked over here somewhere. See if you can find that scroll box or scroll back all the way to the other end here.
Go to owner square.
We didn't name our query. Yeah, that one. No. Oh no, those are tables too. Yeah, you can close. That may be a problem because you have all those tables open. So go ahead and close all your tables. Sorry, I probably should have told you guys to do that. Okay, so here's your query. Now, so change back to, oh no, that's where you want to be in design view.
And
You're
then,
good.
okay, we're back.
Yeah, that's where you want to be. You're good there. Okay, so what we're wanting to do here is add text query, a text that, I'll get it right, text criteria to our hold on. Did I leave the veterinarian out? I guess we were supposed to put the veterinarian in. Did I miss? I must have missed something along the way here because I don't have the right fields. Oh, I did. I missed the first one that says double click the veterinary field. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we'll come over here to our appointment date. And we should be able to, in our query tools design tab, click insert column, and it will insert in front of appointment date. And then we will be able to add our veterinarian in there. Sorry, I missed that one.
Click over to appointment date?
I'm sorry, what?
Say click over to appointment date?
If you're on appointment date, then do insert columns,
Oh, right above it.
and it will put,
Okay, yeah, you got it there. And then go up top and see if there was a start column.
okay, see, this is a problem with, I didn't bring my, I see I'm missing some others too, so sorry. Okay, veterinarian, appointment date, appointment time, patient ID. So we'll insert a column here too. And we'll get patient ID, treatment number, and then owner. All right. So you'll also have to go to the treatment number field, guys. I know you were busy doing other stuff there. Go to your treatment number and do your insert column again. And then add patient ID between appointment time and treatment number. So that's just one way that you can make that change. You could also have left treatment number here and just went in and changed it to patient ID and then changed owner to treatment number and then added owner at the end. So either way, you know, as long as you're getting what you need, but I really messed that one up. So now it will make more sense when we add this data, this text data criterion, sorry. All right, so in our veterinary column, we'll go down to the criteria row, and we are going to type in G01. It does not have to be capitalized. Probably Access will change it to capitalized G, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. So now, when we run this, we will see the results of only the information for veterinarian who is G01. So we'll run this. So whoever veterinarian G01 is, has one appointment on the 23rd of August at 10 o'clock with whoever C-1 is, and owner O-2. So that doesn't tell me a whole lot. That I would need to know who owner 2 is for me if I were the veterinarian. But you can also later on, you'll be able to kind of cross-reference these. So you will also see in your textbook that once you get past that setting up the query, they will always show you the results of the query. So you can look at those pictures to make sure that yours matches up. We are going to save this query because we've not ever saved this query before. You can just click the save disk that's up here on the quick access toolbar. You can also do a right click on the query 1 tab and do save from there. And then this is where you're going to name the query. Now, naming the queries are, you have to make sure you name them like the textbook asks. So this is all lowercase M02 Q01. So M02 stands for module 2. And then Q01 is query 1. And they put the zeros in there because I don't know why they do it for the module, but because we can get to query 10, 11, 12, and so they want those numeric values to be the same size, I guess. Okay, so when we click on OK, your query name where it says query 1 will change to say M02Q01. In your textbook, it talks about using a already saved query. And then it goes on into using wildcards. A lot of times using databases, especially people that use the same database frequently, you know what's in your database. And you're like, there's a customer who, gosh, it starts with an L. What is the name of that company? You know, so you can search just like you do for stuff on the web with an asterisk, which is a wildcard. Now, most people don't do that like in Google, but we used to back in the day when things first started. We would use a lot of what are those called? The greater than, less than, and, but, or, I'm not sure it tells me here, but I can't remember what those are called. But and so you would use the asterisk for a wild card. We don't do that as much anymore because we just type in our entire question into Google or Bing or whatever and get the results with that. But when you're talking about a database, the wildcard, the asterisk is used for any collection of characters. So you can type in, you know, it starts with an L, but you can't remember the name of the company. So you just leave the asterisk after that. And then it'll bring up all the L's, the companies with the L. You also have a question mark that can be a wildcard symbol. The question mark only represents one character. So, you know, you may know you're looking for something with 4 characters. So you could just do question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. If you know it begins or ends with something, you can put a letter at the beginning or end or a number or something like that. I don't see the question mark being super useful, but the wildcard can be useful. So we're going to do one with, I'm sorry, the asterisk can be useful. So we are going to open our owner's query. So we'll just close out of this one. We have an owner's query, and you will want to open that in design view. So I'm going to move this up so we can't see any of it right now. So here's our owner's query. We probably saved that last module. I've slept too many days since then, so I don't remember. We're going to go to the owner's state field, and we're going to go to the criteria row below that. You'll want to check the criteria row each time you add criteria. If there's anything there that was previously used, you want to make sure you backspace or delete it out. There's not anything here, but we're going to type a U and then the asterisk. And again, it doesn't have to be capitalized. But if you want to, you can. We'll run the query. And so now we're only going to get the owners who live in the state of Utah.
I'm sorry, would you do after MO2Q01?
So we closed out of that query, and then we opened up in your navigation pane, you have an owner's query that's already created.
Okay.
And you'll open that up, and then it needs to be in design view. So you can, if you just double click on it, it opens it up into data sheet view. you can right click on them and open them in design view. I think I skipped that part. Sorry. So then in your owner state, you're just gonna type U asterisk. And then when you run the query, you get those 4 results. Now I popped back over to design view, and some of you guys may have noticed when I did that, the program access has changed the criteria to like and quotation marks around the U and the wildcard asterisk. I really can't tell if that's 1 or 2. Is it 1 or 2? No, I think it's 2, but I can't really tell. It's too fuzzy, and this is too small for me to see. Even with my bifocals on, I think it's 2, but I don't really know. The reason I point that out though is because if you run this and maybe you got an extra letter in there for some reason accidentally, and you get nothing in your results, and you're like, oh, I must have done something wrong. If you ever get nothing in the results of your query, that should be your first thought. Oh, I've typed something in wrong. So you would just flip back over to design view, and then you can say, oh, I see, well, I have an A in there that shouldn't be there. So your first instinct is probably just to backspace all of that out and then type an asterisk again. But now if I try to run my query, I'm going to get an error message that says the expression string you entered has an invalid string. And that is because I did not put the quotation mark back around it. So I will try to do the 2 quotation marks and see if that works. Yeah. Otherwise, just delete everything and start over by just typing U and the asterisk. But if you don't get those quotation marks back in there, that's what will cause a problem for some things.
Where'd you go right now?
So now I reran the query with it correct so that I get the correct results. So these are just the results of that query. Okay, so now we have used our owner's query, but we want to save as so that we keep our owner's query, and we also have this query where we made the change. So since this was a previously saved query, we can't just click the save button up here. We have to go to file, to this backstage view, and do save as. Now, because we're working with the query, we're not saving the entire database. We are saving the object in a database. So we will save the object as an object, and then you can just click save as, and it will bring up your little save as box. And we are going to call this M02 Q02. And then you can say, okay. Then we can close out of this query. Our next query we're going to do is going to include a field that we're going to use for the criteria, but we're going to take that check mark out so it doesn't show up in the results. So I kind of talked about that one earlier. Again, we're going to open our owner's query, and we'll do that in design view. So again, you can right click on your owner's query and go into design view. And in the owner postal code criteria, we are going to type 813 with an asterisk. Then right above where we put that criteria, we're gonna take that check mark out of the checkbox. You will also see the criteria row change to like in the quotations with the data in it. We can run our query and we should get 2 results. So we can see these, that 813 is from Dolores. What is Kansas City? 64114? Yeah, 641. So if we did a 641 for Kansas City, we'd get lots of cities because they're all about that same, and they have the last 2 digits that are different depending on where they're located. So so that's how you can use a field that doesn't show up in your results. They don't have us save this one, but we're gonna make some changes to it. Well, I say that. Yeah, we can just make changes to this one. So they have you actually close out of this one, you don't save it. Then we open owner's query again. So we're just gonna pop back over to design view. I'm gonna take this like criteria out. We're going to go to the criteria for owner state. Actually, before I do that, let's put our check mark back in postal code so we don't forget that. And then we'll go to the criteria row for owner state. And this text that we're going to put in here is what we use to create what's called a parameter query. If you've ever worked with databases before, you might have gotten an error message that says something like the parameter data mismatch or something like that. You maybe have seen that word before. What that's basically telling you in a very low level knowledge of database stuff is what you've typed in can't be found in the database. You've done something wrong in asking the question that you've asked or looking for the data you're looking for. So something's not right with that. What we're going to do is we're going to type in some information here so that when we run the query, we're going to get a message that pops up that says what we're going to type in here. We're going to type enter CO for Colorado or UT for Utah. So then when we run the query, that pops up, but gives us the option so we can type in CO or UT. Now, if the other things that we get that parameter, whatever is not right, if it would tell us a message like this, then we would know what we needed to type in. But it's not set up to do that. So what we're going to do is here in the owner state, and I'm going to use my zoom here. What this does is it takes that cell where I'm typing stuff and it just makes it big so you can see it a little bit better. And then I'll make the font big so you can see it also. All right, so you'll type a square bracket, which is located by the P. So that's your open square bracket. And then you're going to type enter CO, and those are both capitalized, for Colorado, or UT for Utah. And then you have to close it up with the square bracket on the end. The square brackets are the lower characters on those keys, so you don't have to use the shift key for that. If you use the shift key, you're going to get the brackets, the little indent arrow thingies, and I don't know what those are called, but
You check that whole thing.
yeah, so you're going to type this whole thing. enter CO for Colorado or UT for Utah.
And we're still in owner state, right?
I'm sorry, what?
Are we still in the owner state?
In the owner state, yes. So you have the square bracket to begin with, the square bracket to end with. And then when we click on OK, all of that fits in there, but you can't see it all. So that's one of the reasons I blew it up also for you. Now, once we have that in there, we can click our run button. And instead of running and giving us the results, we get enter CO for Colorado or UT for Utah. So this is also where it's important that you do spelling correctly, because the end user of this database would see this information that you just typed in. So if you spelled Colorado wrong, or you spelled them with lowercase instead of uppercase, then people will be like, whoever did this doesn't know that they shift key works or something. So, so we can type CO, we'll run this, and now we see the owners that are from the state of Colorado. Now, we'll go ahead and save this. So we're going to do File, go to our Backstage view, Save As, Save Object As, and then do Save As. And this we are going to call owner hyphen state query, QUERY. I probably should have told you guys that a little bit more, but owner hyphen state query. Make sure you get the hyphen and not the underscore. Then we can click OK, and your tab now should be labeled owner hyphen state query. All right, then they have us close out of this query.
You gotta go back to what you did. You were in that owner's query, right?
Yeah, we were in the owner's query, yes.
CO. Was it capital CO? Yeah. Put the head up, right? So, back there, there you go. Now go to budget file. Go to save as. You was clicking up there, clicking on save as option. Okay. Yeah, and now you should be, all you have to do is hit save and change the name. Owners.
Hyphen state.
Owner state, owner dash state. Oh, is that supposed to be owners or just owner state?
Probably owners. No, an owner state,
Okay.
owner state. Mhm. Okay, so if your navigation pane isn't open, go ahead and click your arrows to open that up. We're going to go to the owner state query. And if you right click on that, so we'll click open. And then you'll get the parameter or box that we just typed. And now if you type in UT, and click OK,
Should be able to.
then you'll see the 4 from Utah. Okay, so we just reused it again. That's all. We're not saving it or anything. We just changed it from when we opened it this time.
You open it, the design view.
No, we just clicked open. And when you open, you're just immediately gonna be hit with that question. What do you want, Utah or Colorado? So if you type in UT, it gives you the ones from Utah.
So mine's on my navigation thing, isn't putting the state on there, but it is allowing me to do the Colorado, Utah thing.
You don't have owner state query?
Let's have owner's story.
Okay, so if you open up the owner's query and you go to design view, okay, so do save as, go to backs and then do that, and then do save as. And so we're gonna call this owner hyphen state query.
Yeah, why not save it that way? Now it's on there.
Okay, so close out of both of those queries. Now go to your owner query and open it up in design view. Okay, now change over to design view. Your view button here. Now go over there and take out your criteria. It says enter Colorado. Yeah, and then do, you can just hit your save button up here. And now your owner query should be what it needs to be. So you can close out. All right, we are going to create a new query. And we're going to do this by going to the Create tab. And then we're going to go to Query Design. And we're going to get to select our table again. And this time it's going to be the treatment cost. We'll click our Add button. I know mine's not showing there, so I'll move it up here. Click your Add button down at the bottom, and then you can click the Close button. I'm going to close. I'm sorry, what?
You wanna,
No, you're starting a brand new one. Yeah, you can close
go ahead and finish.
it. Go to Create at the top. And then Query Design. Yep. And then add the treatment cost table. And then click Add, or select the treatment cost table, click Add, and then click Close.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you.
All right, so we want to include the treatment number field, the treatment, the animal type, and the cost. So we're going to put all of those in there. And then in the cost field, we're going to type 25 as the criteria. Now, because this is a cost field, it's probably a currency value. It's set up as a currency data type. So, which would be $25.00 or decimal 0.00. When you're dealing with numeric criteria that has a format of some type to it, you don't have to use the formatting. You don't have to use the $sign. You don't have to use the decimal places. So we're just going to type in 25 that's all we have to do. And so then if we run our query, we will see the results show up with that cost column formatted as currency. So you'll see the $signs and the decimal places show up. But when you're doing the criteria, you do not have to put in the formatting of it. We'll save this as M02Q03. M02Q03. And then we can close out of this query. We will go to create a new query. And this time we're going to use the appointments table. Yeah. Okay. Let me know if you have any questions, okay? Okay. Yeah, and I'll open that back up because there's a couple of you guys that need that open back up for you. So
Thank you.
Where'd you go right now? You went to?
we just created a new one. We went to create and then query design. So we're in the design with the appointments table added. We're going to put in, sorry, I did the wrong one. Our first field should be appointment date. And then appointment time. Treatment number. And veterinarian. Nope, and patient ID. Okay. Appointment date, appointment time, treatment number, veterinarian, and patient ID. Okay, so this time we're going to use a date, an actual date on the calendar for our criteria. But we're also going to use those comparison operators, the greater than, less than. They talk about those in your textbook. Greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, not equal to. Those can all be comparison operators that are used. When you're dealing with dates, you kind of have to, well, my brain anyway, kind of has to think a little bit more. So things that are greater than today, what is today, March 29th? Things that are greater than March 29th, 2022 would be anything that is tomorrow or after. Okay, anything that is less than today would be whatever's already happened in history. So you just kind of have to think about that. Well, I do anyway. Yeah, so we're going to go to the appointment date field or criteria row, and we're going to type greater than 6/30/2021. When we run this query, we should get two results. 10/25/2021 and 8/23/2021. we'll save this query as M02Q04. Keys or phone? Your what? Your hat. Oh. The next thing we're gonna do is look at using compound criterion. That means it's just like when we put two words together back in elementary school and we form compound words. That's the same thing we're doing. We're putting two pieces of criteria together. So it's a compound criteria. All right, so they have us start a new query, but we're putting in pretty much the same field. So we're gonna just take this one back over to design view. We will take out, no, we're gonna use that same criterion. Yeah, but our patient ID, let me make this bigger here. Appointment date, appointment time, treatment number, veterinarian, and then instead of patient ID, we're changing this to owner. So now we want to do appointment dates. We're still going to leave that at greater than, oh wait, maybe we take that out. No, we don't, we leave it in. We're going to leave this criterion, but then for the veterinary field, we are going to type on the same row, so it's still the criteria row. In the veterinary field, we're going to type B01. And then if you click outside of there, you'll see it puts the quotation marks around there. When we run this query, we are going to only get one record. Now, because we already saved this query with the 04, we have to go into the Backstage view and do save as. Save object as, and then the save as button. And you can just backspace that 4 out and put the 5, but then you have to go on the other side of it and take out the word copy of. And we can save that, have that query saved. So it kind of depends on you. If you'd rather start from scratch and put all the stuff in again, you can. If you're using most of it, I say go ahead and reuse it and then just resave it with a new name. But you have to remember to save it as a new name. All right, so we're just gonna pop back over to design view with this one because we're gonna make a little bit of a change. We're gonna take the B01 out here. And then we're gonna click down in the OR row just below. And we'll type B01 in here. Now, do you think we're gonna get more results or less results? So what we did before was called an AND criteria. It had to meet the date criteria and the veterinary criteria. This, because we moved this down to the OR row, it's called an OR criteria. So you can match the date or the veterinarian. So you should have more in this one because you have either or. It doesn't have to match one exactly. So we'll run this query and we get, I don't know, how many is that? 5 results. Okay. And we'll do a save as, so file to the Backstage view, save as, save object as. And again, you can take the 5 out and put the 6 in there. Go to the other side of the M. I left a space in mine, so you might want to make sure you get that space out in front of the M. And then you can save that.
They took out points and do the space.
It might. So, and the way you can tell is if you come over here and you see your queries, they should all be listed in order. Oh, because I have it open. If I rename this and I put a space in front of it, oh, it may not have saved the space in front of it. Yeah, it doesn't look like it did. So you might be okay. But if you get something ordered, like if you put M02Q06, then it's gonna, it can mess that up and it'll put, I don't know. So if you get them out of order, if you look and you go, well, I had 6, what happened to 6? Then you probably have just named it in a little bit incorrectly. The next part of your textbook talks about the special criteria. You can use an and operator. So if you needed like treatments that are greater than $20 and less than $35, you can use, they have it written out in the textbook there. The greater than sign, 20, and then the less than or equal to 35. But the word and is between them in all capital letters. So you have and, between, and in. So they just give you some examples there. The next part talks about sorting. You can sort data using the sort row that we have, but you can also sort on more than one field. The first sort, or the primary sort, the primary sort is also called your major key or your major sort. It will have to be on the left in your design grid of any secondary sorting that you want to do. So your major sort is to the left of your minor sort. I don't typically refer to them as major and minor. I refer to them as primary sort and secondary sort. So the primary sort is the main one. It has to be farthest to the left. It does not necessarily have to be all the way to the left. It just needs to be to the left of the secondary sort field. Okay. All right, I'm gonna just open this query up into design view because it talks about clearing your design grid. So if for some reason you're working along and you're like, oh, I was just gonna use this query because I thought it had most of everything of what I need, but it doesn't really. So what you can do is click at the top in your design grid and you'll get a black downward pointing arrow. When you see the black downward pointing arrow, you can hold your mouse down as you click and drag across all of those, and then just press your delete key and it clears out everything that's in there.
Get them all out.
Yep, just gonna get rid of all of them. Yeah, once they're all highlighted, you can just hit the delete button. So that's how you can clear your design grid out. Then they just have us close out of it. And you're gonna close, but you're not gonna save any of the changes. So just say no, don't save those changes. I don't know why they had us do that. They were just gonna have us close out of it, but that's okay. We learned how to do that. All right, now we're ready to import a table. And so we should have a support file that we downloaded with this. So we are ready to import this. And they don't really give us the steps by steps like they did last module because we've already done this. So we will open this support table database. Okay, so we want to, mine is probably in downloads. So here's my support file, and they just want us to open this in Access. So we'll just open it like we normally would. And then you'll have to do enable content. And we have the veterinary vendors table. Then we're going to go to the external data tab. And we are going to export this. Okay, hold on. We're going to go back to our other database. So this is our support database, and you should also have your CMF vets database open. So we're going to go to our CMF vets database. Data source. Okay, so in our CMF vets, we'll go to the external data. Did it close out of your other? You might have to look down at your status bar and find both of them.
I got the CMS.
Okay, so we'll go to the new data source. And we're going to do from database. And we'll do access. We're going to hit the browse button. I don't know why they had us open that if they're going to have us go in here and do this. So then you have to find your support file. Mine's in download, so I'm guessing yours may be too. I don't know. Yeah, the support file. Because you should be in your CMF vets database.
Yeah. Once we edit, do we go to open it?
Let me make sure before I tell you, before I just yell out yes. Click browse, get the vets extra table, and then you click open and it will put it here. So you have the file now showing up and where it says file name. Okay, so we want to make sure this import tables, queries, forms has the little circle selected in front of it. We'll click the OK button. And then you probably aren't seeing anything like mine because it opened in queries. So we'll have to click on tables. Then we'll click we'll select the veterinary vendors table. And then we'll click OK. And then we can close this window. Now, if we open up our shutter bar, if your objects weren't showing, you should, when you open that up, you should now see where it says veterinary vendors table.
You say those input steps.
No. So I'm just going to open up this. So you see that you've imported 5 vendors. Okay. You don't necessarily have to open that up because we go on to something else. But we'll use that later on. We're going to create a new query based on the treatment cost table. So we'll go to create. And honestly, I don't mind if you guys want to use the query wizard to do some of these. You might as well, because you're just going to use a simple query until we get to some more of the complex things. But like for this, you could do, you want to do the treatment cost table. So you would just have to change your tables here to find the treatment cost. And then you want the treatment and then the cost. Those are the 2 fields that you're going to have in this query. You can click next.
Treatment and cost.
Yep, treatment and cost. Say next. And then you just want the details of the query. So we'll click on next. And then here's where it says, what do you want to name the query? So here's where you would have to like fast forward and see down. They want you to save it as the M02Q07 query. Now, because we need to do some sorting of this, and I know that because I read through this, we will want to open the query in design view, or select modify the query design, and that will open it in design view whenever we finish this. So we'll click finish. So it's got your table in there, it's already named, and you have your 2 pieces of information in there.
Treatment and then treatment cost.
Mine is just cost. And I wonder if, I don't know why it is,
Mine shows up just like that too, but when I click the arrow, it pops up with the treatment cost.
okay.
Like,
I
I have the same little box that you have,
Yeah,
but when I click down in the field, and I click the arrow, the treatment cost.
let me go over here to design view of this. That's interesting. I don't know why it's just cost. Oh, I don't think I saved that, did I? Well, oh yeah, I did, because it was 7. Okay. So treatment cost is the name of the table. but the field should just be called cost. Because you shouldn't have a field named treatment cost. Right?
Right. Just cause.
So you have treatment is the first field and cost is the second field. And we want to sort this based on the cost field. And we're going to sort in ascending order. So we'll click in the sort row and choose ascending, and make sure you don't click off that check mark like I did. And then when we run this query, we'll see the treatment and then what they all cost. And this is where you can save it with the M02Q07 if you haven't already. Since I have, but I've made some changes to it, I'm just going to hit the save button.
When you say that, we don't want to backstage.
You know, if you've already saved it when we did the query, does the query wizard.
I didn't go there, but I went the way we have it.
Yeah, yeah, as long as it's saved as that and it's correct. The next thing we're going to learn how to do is omit duplicates from the results of our query. So if we're not needing to know specifically the cost of each particular treatment, we might just need to know, somebody might call and say, what are the range of costs for your treatments? We don't need to see 10, 10, 10, 20, 20, 20 duplicated over and over. We just need to see 110, 120, 135, or whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to make this cost column only show one of each number. So we're omitting the duplicate numbers that show up here. Now, this is probably not something that you're going to want to save as a query if you were actually in practice doing this, but it's a way that we can learn how to omit duplicates if you are ever in a situation where that needs to happen. However, it's very weird the way that this works. We're going to move back to our design view. And we want the cost field to be adjusted so that only, how it's worded, unique values. There you go. Only unique values show up. So while we're in design view, you would think that if you're wanting to affect the cost column, that you would be in the cost column and make adjustments to the properties of the cost column, but you don't. To omit duplicates, you have to go into the next empty column, and you can right click and go down to properties. Or if you notice the property sheet up here now is highlighted in gray, you can click the property sheet, but you must be in this next empty column to do that. Once you see the property sheet pane show up, you will go down to where it says unique records. And right now it's set to no. We're going to change that to yes. And that will allow us to only see one $10 amount, one $15 amount. There's no saving to these properties. You just close out with the X. When you run your query, you will now see that that didn't work. What did I do? What did I do wrong? Oh, they have us click the treatment field and delete it. Sorry, I missed that step. Okay. Now let me see. Unique records, yes.
So what, leave that column?
You can delete the first column, yeah. Unique values. Oh, sorry, I was on the wrong one, wasn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, it needs to be unique values. Sorry, I got the wrong one.
So
So,
let's put records back to.
yeah, it should change it back to no. Unique values, yes. Okay. Now let me see if I got it right. Yay, there we go. Oh, no, it was supposed to be unique what is it supposed to be? Unique records, yes. Nope, nope, sorry, unique values, yes. The wrong thing there. I even got it blown up really big and I'm still telling you wrong. Okay, unique values should be set to yes.
Yeah, we got phase.
In the design grid, click the second field. Delete, click the second field, delete, Click the unique values. Okay, I'm just making sure that run the query. So it says save and close the query. I've looked at that twice. So we're saving the query with the same name because it said to return to design grid. And we just saved that as 07. So we will go ahead and do save, not save as. We're just going to save this 07 query with this information. And then we can close out of this query. And we'll create a new one, a new query based on the treatment cost table. We are going to add treatment number. It is important that you select the fields in the order that they give them to you. So treatment number, and then treatment, and then animal type, and then cost. Okay, so we are going to go to the animal type sort row, and we are going to sort that in ascending order. And then we're also going to go to the cost field and sort the cost field in ascending order. So our animal type, canine or feline, is going to be sorted first. So we'll see all of the treatments for the canine because the C's come before the F's. And then we'll see them in lowest to highest values for the cost of the treatment. So we'll run our query. And like I said, here are all of our canines listed first, the lowest cost to the highest cost. And then we have the felines, the lowest cost to the highest cost. We will save this as M02Q08. We're gonna go back to design view. This next query that we're creating is called a top values query. And I wish they would call it something else because I find it difficult to find this information, especially if I were a student, because there's nowhere where it says top values. But what we're going to do is, if you ever have a query that you create and you're like, I really only want the top 5% in my results, you can narrow it down by using in design view. In the design tab, you have the query setup section. And there is where it says return. Right now it's set to all. But if you want the top 5%, you can use that drop down arrow and click the top 5%. And it will only return and show in your results the top 5%. Let me see. They want us to do 5 instead of 5%. So I'll change this to 5. So you remember we had, 20 results that showed up last time. All we did is change to return to 5. And when we run it, we only get the 5 that were at the very top. So they're all canine and then the top 5 costs that are there. You can also, if I go back to the design view, you can say if you want the top 12, you can type in 12. If you want 15%, you can type in 15%. And when you run the query, you get that information. Okay, so we want it set to 5 so that we can save it and it is the correct thing to save. So we're using an old query. We have to do the save as, so we'll go to the backstage view. Save our object as. Take your 8 out, change that to a 9. And then get rid of the copy of. And you can close out of that query. We are going to join 2 tables together. When you join 2 tables, they will have one field in common that can be like the joined field that match them up with each other.
Not one question.
Mhm.
Should we have two 7s or just one?
Just one.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to join the appointments table and the treatment cost table. So we can see how those would be related, because your appointments table, if a animal is getting a treatment, it will be labeled, it will have that treatment number, and then your treatment costs, each treatment is labeled with a specific cost and other information as well. So we're going to join those tables. And so to do that, we are going to go to our query design grid. And we are going to add, now when you're adding the 2 tables, it's important that you add them in the order that is given in your textbook. So we want to add our appointments table first. And you can also double click these and they will pop in. And then we want to add the treatment cost table. And then you can click your close button that you can't see on my screen. Now, you probably see a line between them. Okay.
Sorry, I got, I don't know where it is. I got 2 appointments.
You got 2 appointments?
Yeah,
Okay.
and 1 treatment.
So right click on one of your appointments and then just choose remove. Okay. So now that you have this join line here, it's coming from treatment number of the appointments table to treatment number of the treatment cost table. Right? Okay, if you don't have a join line, then we can join them. You can join by, let me see,
Mine went away from mine.
your line. Okay, so I'm gonna delete mine so you can see what you need to do. You'll take your treatment number from here and you're just gonna drag it over and drop it on top of the treatment number in your treatment cost. And then your line should show back up. Okay? All right, so in our design grid, we are going to add appointment date from our appointments table. And then from the treatment table, we are going to add as well as the treatment, animal type, and cost. We want to select the sort ascending for the appointment date. And the treatment field, ascending for the appointment date and the treatment field. Okay, we'll run this query. We'll see our appointment dates are from January to October. And then you'll see we have one date, the 30th of June, that has 2 treatments, and those are in alphabetical order as well. We are going to save this as appointments and treatments as the query name. So since it's just labeled query 1, we can click save. Appointments and treatments. Then I'll click the OK to save that. And then we're going to go back to design view. And on that join line, we're going to adjust the join properties. So we are going to right click on that line. If you're close to the line and not on the line, you will get this drop down menu or this shortcut menu that pops up. You want to be on the line and you only get 2 choices, join properties or delete. We're going to choose the join properties because we want to make some changes to the properties of this joint, this joined tables, these joined tables, whatever. Okay, and this is where it affects if you did not put the tables in the correct order, this would be opposite of what it is now. The a treatment cost would be over here and the appointments would be over here. So,
I'm sorry.
yeah, so where'd I go? On the line, do a right click and then do join properties. If you don't see join properties, then do you have this one?
Yeah.
Okay, you didn't quite get on the line. So try again, get right on the line. See, I was right on the line that time, I thought. So you should get a, yeah. So then we'll go to join properties and we want to select the third option, which says that we want to include all records from the treatment costs table. And only those records from the appointments where the join fields are equal. So basically what you need to kind of think of is, do they want me to be seeing all the costs from the treatment table? If that's the case, then I want to choose number 3. If I'm wanting to see all records from the appointments table, then I would need to choose number 2. So the rest of that kind of doesn't always make sense to people that aren't database people. So I try to point that out to you. We're wanting to make sure that we have all of the treatment information. So we're going to choose number 3 and then we'll click OK. And now we're going to run this query again. And so you can see the difference that we'll get by changing that join property. So last time we only saw the ones that had appointment dates, right? Now we see all of our treatments that are available, as well as the ones that have appointments coming up and the treatments that will be used for that. Yeah.
So, so you want to join properties, pick 3, and that's okay.
Uh-huh. But is your number 3 include all records from the treatment costs?
Yes.
Okay. And so when you run your query, are these
It
the
says
results?
The SQL statement could not be executed because it contains ambiguous outer joins. To force one of the joins to be performed first, create a separate query that forms the first join, then include a query in your SQL statement.
Okay. Let me come over and look.
I was saying back out, so trying to.
Okay. So. I don't know. But see, now it's not giving, oh, because I didn't do the joint property today. Okay, so let's do the joint property. I don't know. I have no idea. But anyway, we got it.
This is the only best that do this?
This one's supposed to, but it doesn't work anymore, or they've made it not work. I don't know.
I just realized something, whoever set the room up kind of did it backwards. You know what I'm saying?
Why is that?
Cloud computers are trying to solve ways with the teachers, that's so.
I- Yeah, yeah, I don't know. Okay, so we need to save these changes. If you haven't done so already, save that change that you made to those, that,
The back page view, or just have it like it.
just save it like this, it's fine. All right, so we're gonna create a report based on this query. So we can close out of our query that we just did there, and then we're gonna create. And then we'll go to the report wizard. And we're gonna choose the query. Appointments and treatments. And we're gonna add all fields, so we can just use that double arrow. We'll click next. And we don't need to specify any grouping, and we don't need to specify any sorting, which is on the next screen, because we've already sorted in our query. So now we're at, how would you like to lay out your report? We want to make sure that that's set to tabular, which it is. So we'll click the next. Oh, and you also want to make sure that it's in portrait. We'll click next, and then the report title is going to be appointments and treatments report. And then we can click the finish button, and our report will pop up here in just a little bit. Now, if you were going to print this report, this is kind of like your print preview of what that would be. And in Access, your reports are always going to have the date times, or the date stamp, and the page number of however many pages on it. It will have the report name at the top, and you'll see that where it says appointment, date, treatment, appointment date is kind of cut off and then it goes right into treatment. So it looks like it's all one thing there. That's something that you probably would edit. Right now I'm in print preview. So if I close my print preview, I can go into the design view of this. Or we can go into the layout view, which the layout view we talked a little bit about last time when we made our one report very quickly. The layout view, and we talked about this when we made our forms too. So you can see how it kind of highlights the different sections here. So we could highlight our, whoops, I didn't want to do that. Do that. We could highlight our animal type column here, and if we go all the way down to the bottom of that,
I got it, kind of got lost a little bit. Where did you go to the wrong page there?
so I'm in the layout, report layout view. And so I selected my heading or my field name, which was animal type. And then I selected the very last option, whoops, the canine. And that allowed me to have that all grouped. Then if I use my four-headed arrow, I'm able to,
So it's look like this at first.
on the design, yeah, you need to change the view. Just click up there where it says design and change it to layout. Do you see that? Hold on, I got to get back to a different page. So in your view button over here, yeah, change it to the layout view. Yeah. And so then if you select the animal type and then the first option there, it will select that entire column. And you can use you want the four-headed arrow to move it. Well, you can also see cost. Cost is a right justified to line up the decimal places. So you can see where it comes here. You can do the same thing here and just decrease the width of it. And then you'll be able to move the animal type with the four-headed arrow a little bit closer over to it, which then will let you move your treatments over. And then that will allow you to expand the appointment date so that you can see. This is just something that you kind of have to play around with and work with. You click on the field name and then you hold your shift key down and you select the first option underneath there, and it will select the whole thing so you can move it over.
Oh. Well, it's pretty simple. I just double clicked on it.
Yeah, you can probably do some double clicking stuff. I just have not experimented as much with that. Yeah. Okay, well, we can play around with that and make it look the way we want to quite a bit, but we got a little bit more here to get through. So we'll, oops, there. Oops. Didn't go far enough. All right, so we have our report made. And we should have it, oops, that's a form. We should have it saved already, based on giving it a name. When we, created it with the wizard, but if you want to save the changes to the differences you made here, you can click your save button and then close out of that. It talks about printing, but we don't really need to worry about printing. We're going to create a form based on a query. I'm not really sure why you'd want to use a form based on a query, because queries limit the stuff. So you could be adding data that doesn't have complete data, but regardless, we're going to learn how to do it. We want to have our navigation pane opened up. We can just select the appointments and treatments query. Make sure you're in the query section and have that one selected. And then we're going to go up to create. And remember, creating a form is very simple. All we're going to do is click on form, and it creates that form for us very quickly. We'll click the save button. That lets us do the save as, and we're going to add the word form to the end of that appointments and treatments form. We'll click on OK, and then all right, we're going to close out of our form. We are going to select in our navigation pane, we're going to select the appointments and treatments if it's not already selected. And then on our ribbon, we're going to click on the external data tab. And then in the export section, we're going to click Excel. So we're going to export this query to an Excel spreadsheet. We'll click on our browse button. And then you can just click on downloads or wherever this goes, just save it to that location. So we'll click on save. And then you want to make sure the file format says Excel workbook. And that the file name is appointments and treatments with the Excel extension. Then we'll click OK. What does it say that we're choosing there? We're going to click the checkbox that's the export data with formatting and layout. Does it say to do that? Well, I'm going to say that one. So we'll click on OK. And then this has you save your export steps. I don't like to do this, but you'll be graded on this in SAM. So you have to click where it says save export steps. And then this, I don't like this because people type this save as up wrong. So, or, oh, maybe they don't have us do a description. Well, that'd be nice. They usually have us type a description in there and it gets it all messed up. So we don't have to do that because it's already named. And so we'll just do the save export. The next part of your textbook talks about exporting to Word, exporting as text files. And so we're not going to go through and do all that, but it tells you how you can do that if you need to. Okay, so back to our navigation pane. We are going to right click our appointments and treatments query, and then we're going to open this up in design view. And we're going to, whenever it asks you to restrict records, that is just telling you that you need to add some criteria so that not everything is showing up that's in that query. You're going to restrict it to specific things by adding criteria. So let me change this and move this so we can see it. All right, so we're going to keep everything as it is, but what we're going to change about this is for the cost field, we want to find everything that is greater than 10. So in our cost criteria row, we are going to do greater than 10. And if we run the query, we'll see that the cost, there's no $10 costs in there. And we know we had some. So we're only seeing stuff that's greater than that. Question?
Takes you if there isn't an item in the list. You went on cost, right, in the sort.
You are just causing all kinds of problems. Okay, that is because you're in the ascending. So you need to take it out of there and go down to the criteria row and put it in there. The next section is on calculations. Calculations, you can also call a computed field a calculated field. So we're going to use some different fields and then do a create a calculation, an addition, subtraction, multiplication, or whatever. And the result of that is going to need a new column or a new field to show up in. So when we're doing our calculated fields, we have to name that new column. And so that is a lot of times referred to as an alias, because it can't just be nothing. It has to have a field title there. So your alias, as you type in these calculated fields, is going to be the first thing that you type in, and then you're going to type a colon. And that is signifies to access that this is going to be my field name, and everything after the colon is going to be what I need you to do as a calculation. So we have our oh, I think we close this and we don't save. Let me go back because I forgot to tell you that. Close the query, and then when asked to save your changes, we're going to say no. So we'll close this and then we'll say no. All right, so then to create our calculations, we are going to go to the veterinary vendors table. We're going to create a query design with the veterinary vendors table. And we're going to add the vendor name, the state, veterinary supply, quantity, and cost. Okay. So,
That's what we got out of, the last one we did,
yes,
where we create,
yes,
where we design.
yes. And you're gonna add the veterinary vendors table. And then we should have 5 fields: vendor name, state, veterinary supply, quantity, and cost. So we're going to add a new column. So we'll go over to the blank column to the right. And again, this is where I'm going to go in and do the zoom, because it'll allow you to see a little bit bigger location of what I'm going to be typing in here. Oh, that's already 14. That's probably good. So our alias that we're going to type, sometimes it's referred to as alias, and sometimes they just say type the whatever. So it'll be total cost, and then we're going to put our colon. We can space, and we're going to use the square brackets again. And we'll type quantity. Now, you'll do a square bracket again after the word quantity. It's very important that you type the word quantity properly, because if it doesn't match the spelling that's quantity here, then it won't do the calculation because it can't find that field name. So we have quantity, the closed brackets, then you can hit your space bar again. We'll type the asterisk because we want to multiply, space, your opening square bracket, cost, and your closing square bracket. So total cost is basically going to be the field name up here. And then the results are going to be the multiplication of the quantity amount and the cost of each of the supplies. So we'll click our OK button. Does anybody need to see that longer? Total cost, colon. And you'll see after I've gotten out of it and gotten back in that it took some of those spaces out. So it doesn't matter if you put them in or you don't put them in. It just is a little easier when you're doing the typing to see the difference in it all. So we'll click OK. Now, if I run my query, here's my quantity, here's the cost, and here's the total cost of each of those supplied items from each vendor. So that's how you can create a calculated field. Okay, if you want to, you can go ahead and save this, but we're going to make some changes to it. But we'll go ahead and do a save as M02Q10 because we're at number 10 now. M02Q10. We're going to go back to design view. And we're going to change the caption on some of these. When we look at the results, we sometimes have long names at as the field name. but we might as well keep them a little bit shorter or change them in some way. So back in design view, we're going to click the quantity field. And then we can come up to the property sheet button. And you will see a line that says caption. And we'll click over here in the caption and we're going to type vendor quantity. Okay, can't see that. So you'll type vendor quantity here in your property sheet. And then we can just close out of the property sheet. We'll click the cost field and go to its property sheet. And again, we're going to change the caption to vendor cost. And now when we run this query, you will see that the captions that you put in, instead of just saying quantity and cost, it has vendor quantity and vendor cost, and then your total cost. Okay, so go ahead and save this again with those changes that we made to the property sheets. And then we can close out of this query. All right, our next section is on calculating statistics. So sometimes you may just want to know what is the percentage that you spend on a specific medication or whatever. So we're going to learn how to do calculations. So we'll do a new query in design view. So we'll go create, query design. And we're going to use the veterinary vendors table. And we are going to add the cost field. If I can find the cost field. There it is. Okay, so we're putting in the cost field. And then whenever we're needing to do statisticals, or they call them aggregate, we're going to click on our totals button. So up here where the show height is, you'll click on your total button. That adds a total row under the table row above the sort row. So by default, the option for total is group by. If you click on the drop down arrow by group by, you'll see that there's a whole list of aggregate functions there. The first thing we're going to do is find out the average cost. So we'll change the group by to average. So we're going to take the cost of all of these and we're going to get just the average of it. So we're just going to see one number when we do when we run this query. Now, this is where when you start doing the calculations and the aggregate functions, when you download your database and you open it and you don't check that enable editing or whatever that enable is, you will not be able to do some of these calculations and functions here. So that you have to do that in order to be able to get these to work properly. So your average cost is $9.95. we're gonna go back to design view. We're not gonna save this. We're gonna make a little bit of a change to it and then we'll save it. So we'll go back to design view. And now we want to, instead of just having the cost show up, we are going to include the vendor name. So we'll add vendor name as the second option there. And then we are going to change it from group by to the where option down at the bottom. And then we want to put in criteria. So we're using where so that we can search for SAN with the asterisk wildcard. So our vendor name, we're going to find the one that starts with SAN and then whatever's after that. So when we run our query, we only have one vendor that is Sanchez Supplies. And you'll notice whenever we did the criteria and the where, the check mark is not there. So that's why you're only getting the average cost is $8.75. If you needed the vendor to show, you'd have to make sure you put the check mark in there. All right, so they have us save this so we can as query 11. So M02Q11. We're close. We're close. I know this is a long one. So the next one we're going to do grouping. So when we go back to our design view, we can just use the same one, but we have to swap the cost and the vendor name. So if you want to, you can just select both of those and delete everything so you don't have to make sure you get some of it cleared out. We'll put vendor name and then we'll do cost. We're still going to do group by and average, but we're going to group by the vendor name and we're going to change the cost where it says group by to average. What now?
It was where.
Oh, it was where, yeah. Did you swap them from one side to the other? So you have vendor name first?
Yeah.
Okay. So now what's going to happen is it's going to take our 5 vendors and it's going to say vendor Sanchez Supplies and their average is $8.75. So we'll see all of our vendors show up, our 5 vendors, and the average cost of each of their product is listed there. Now we'll have to do backstage view and save as, because we want to change this from 11 to 12. Okay, last query here is called the crosstab query.
That was the 12, you said, right?
Yep, 12. Okay, this crosstab query, we are going to, the managers want to group data on cost by 2 types of information, state and vendor name. So this crosstab query is going to be able to do that for them. Quite honestly, I can't tell you because I don't do these. I can't tell you a good example of what day-to-day operations would create a good crosstab query. So those of you that work with data a lot will probably be like, oh, I could see a use for this. But since I don't do that, then I just follow along with what the textbook tells me. Anytime you're doing a crosstab query, you'll always want to use the crosstab wizard as we're doing this. And I have always told students in the past, if you create your crosstab query and it looks nothing like what it's supposed to, because they show you the picture of what it's supposed to look like, delete it, start over again using your wizard, and just make sure you follow and get the exact things. Because it's a lot easier to do that than it is to try to go into the design view of the crosstab query and figure out where you need to make changes. I've done it in some of the ones in the past, but I haven't done it in this new version of Word enough to be able to figure it out yet. So it's always just better to delete it and start over, in my opinion. All right, so we're going to create and we'll do the query wizard, and you'll see that the second choice there is the crosstab query. That's hard to say, wizard. All right, so first of all, we have to decide, and I always make sure you read the instructions or the questions that are asked of you here. How many of us look at a wizard and we're like, click, click, next, click, next, click, next, we don't really even read, right? Well, when you're doing the crosstab query, you really need to read and make sure that you're getting the correct information. So it asks, which table or query contains the fields that you want to use for your crosstab query results? And so that is going to be the table called veterinary vendors. So we'll select that. And then down here below, you can just look at tables, queries, or both. Since we know we only wanted the tables, it's best to have that. And that's what shows up as the options to begin with. All right, so down here is your preview. As we make more selections, you'll notice that things change in this yellow area. So we'll click the next. Now it says, which fields values do you want as row headings? Okay. So rows go across horizontally. So our row headings will be showing up right here. So if you looked at your end result of your query, you would see that it has states identified there. So we're going to choose the state field. And now you see in the query, it says state 1, 2, 3, and 4 listed over there. All right, where am I at? Then we'll click our next button. And this tells you that you can select up to 3 fields and select the fields in the order you want them. We're not doing that. We're just using one field for this. So on our next screen, it asks, which fields values do you want as column headings? Well, if you look at the end result, you'll notice that the columns are headed by the vendor name. So we'll choose the vendor name. And again, you'll see your preview changes, and you'll see the one in the textbook changes also. So you can click your next button. And we want to choose what number do you want calculated is cost. And then we have to determine, do we want the average, count, first, last, min, max, and we are going to choose the sum. So we want it to do a total or a sum. Again, in your preview here, it says the sum of the field cost. We'll click next. And then we're gonna leave this as veterinary vendors, and then have the underscore crosstab. So we'll just leave that. And then we'll say next or finish. And this should be what your crosstab looks like.
You pick for a function, which one you pick
What?
for a function?
The function is sum. So in your textbook, figure 2-78 shows you what this should look like. Move this over here. So if I look at figure 2-78. That did not turn out so well. Let me go back one page. Here, this is what it should look like. So we have Colorado, Utah. The total cost is going to be all of the states of Colorado added up. The total cost for Utah is going to be all of the states for Utah added up. Okay, does Sanchez Supply not have anything in it? Because no, it's not showing up on either of my things, but. Okay, go into your design. You did total of ID. So go back to your design view. Because you don't need either of those. You should let me go to my design view.
Alright.
This is how I normally figure this out. Okay. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Okay, so you have state,
State,
veterinary vendors, group by row heading. Then you have vendor name.
X cost.
You can just do insert if you want to, like click on this one and do insert column. And then it'll put a blank one in there, and you can set it at vendor name. And group by. And then column heading. And then do you have cost?
Flip. So cost, veterinary vendors,
Sum and value. And then you can just get rid of those other two by putting your black arrow over them and deleting them. And then you will probably have to, oops, sorry. Type that in, total of cost, colon, and then cost in the brackets. And that's for your veterinary vendors, sum. And row heading. And then let's see what you get.
There we go.
Okay. All right. So. That's how I usually have to figure out how to fix them. Is get them correct and then go back in and look at them. So, all right. So this should already be saved as your crosstab. because we went through the wizard. But you might want to just save it again, Brandon, especially since we had to make some changes to that. So the last thing it talks about is how to use your navigation. Oops, I gotta get out of that. The navigation and how to make changes to how it looks. So I'm not gonna go through everything in the textbook. Just know you can use the little drop down arrow here. Right now it's sorted by object type and all access objects are showing. Because we've made a whole bunch of queries, you may want to just be able to look through your queries. So you can use this little double arrow here and it collapses your tables. So you see no tables. They're still there, you're just not seeing them. But that will allow you to see all of your queries. If you don't need to see your queries, but you want to look at tables and forms and reports, you can do that. If you only want to see, or you can change the way that they look by doing like tables and related views. This is a very confusing view for me because here's my owner's table and then here's everything that has to do with the owner's table or everything that's related to the owner's table. Then you have the patients, the appointments, and everything that goes with that. I dislike that one, but some people might prefer that. You can go by date created, modified. You can just filter it by one specific group. So maybe we only want to see owners stuff. So that's everything that deals with the owner. So that you can just play around with that. There's really no right or wrong way. If for some reason Sam says your navigation pane isn't in the correct order, then just don't worry about it. Or if you need to redo it for something or make changes for something else, you can make it whatever it's supposed to be. But anyway, okay. I know this takes a long time to go through, but I like especially to go through all of these for you guys because you've seen when you go back into your homework, you're going to do very similar stuff to it. So always refer back to your textbook for like your calculations, your cross tabs, your aggregate things that you have to do, because those are the ones that are the most difficult. The parameters, some people have problems with. The top values and the omitting duplicates, people have problems with, but you can always find that in your textbook. All right. Okay, the police are going to come and kick us out here in just a little bit. So we'll stop and get out of here before they kick us out.